Can we examine, impartially and objectively, why religions like Christianity have broken down into many different orders, or have created their own traditions and their own way of interpreting the Bible? And it's very simple. It's regards to evolution. Evolution is a force within nature that affects the, in particular, male ego, the silverback male ego. So if some male becomes a preacher and he believes that he is right and he gains a following, his identity and his ego will then drive him to continue to say his view is right. It's the same throughout the male kingdom on planet Earth, regardless of the position or the idiom or the society, because it is a cultural, organic cultural development that occurs over and over in nature and is reflected directly within humanity. And this is a very simple examination, if you like, and perspective about why Christianity has broken up into so many sects, so many different, there's millions of them. It's no point in trying to think about how many of these because I wouldn't have a clue. The point is, I do understand evolution rather well, and that does not, and I cannot, I don't have any religion myself, but I cannot take away, having read the Bible, I can't take away why evolution is a problem for people who say they're Christians, when if you examine the natural forces and natural law, you cannot deny what there's before your eyes, that things adapt according to sort of natural processes. And the male ego, right through to whenever, drives males to become leaders. And if all males want to sort of become leaders, no male really wants to be a slave or dominated by another male. That's unnatural. So all males want to be. So once males become a leading figure in regards to religion, it goes right back to Martin Luther and all the other people who began to break from the Catholic Church, who then created in the Reformation, which then created a fragmentation of Christianity. So therefore, it still cannot get together as a cohesive and cooperative idea in regards to how it develops in the world in the future, unless it accepts that there are natural laws, and you cannot separate a God's law, if that's what you see it as, from natural law. If God is supposed to have created all nature, then God created that as natural laws, what causes things to species to adapt according to the niches being created. Now, the niches being created, and niches are economic things, an economic factor. And economic is not just about money and currency, it's about the gaining of a potential of a supporting environment through what you appreciate towards yourself. And this happens throughout all the animal kingdom. Niches are created and within potential economic situations will then benefit that organism, that then will give that organism its sustainability, sustenance, and then then you relate that to the human ego and the male ego in particular, where males become leaders of a new order or a new way of looking at the Bible, they will then take it upon themselves. This is a way that supports them. If it wasn't, and that drives then all this massive fragmentation of Christianity. So it's a natural evolutionary trend. Whether people like to admit that or understand that or totally reject the idea of evolution and evolutionary theory, which is different to the theory of evolution, but it's done nonetheless, they're connected. But this idea that once something is created, it becomes a genre, it becomes generic. And after the third generation, it becomes like a familial, and therefore it becomes entrenched into that society, how it should be. So it's very difficult to dissolve to take the idea of Christianity back down to a unifying force where everyone gets together and agrees on some simple precepts that support all of those people, regardless whether you're Christian or not. It's not actually about being a Christian. It's about what is sort of the meaning of life and what is a way to be that is better for humanity. And it's basically, and Christianity is not the only, it's arrogant for Christianity and Christians to say they're the only ones with the idea of what's right or wrong, because that means that's also a very divisive attitude to have towards any society or anyone else who is not Christian, because dividing yourself as a Christian from everyone else is the same thing as dividing yourself as a Christian, creating your own order from the rest of Christianity. It's exactly the same symptoms or systems or syndromes what affects humanity, and we've got nations and states and all those things going on in the world, all based on the same thing, a similar pattern of behaviour that's set in nature, or according to cultural niches that are being created over time through different thoughts arising about different things created within the environmental forces of the time. Because the Taoism and Confucianism and Buddhism and Islamic beliefs, Islam, all have very, very similar moral codes to the basis of them that allow some sort of cohesive discussion about life itself, regardless what your actual belief is in regards to your own religious views or your own cultural views. And the number one thing about also about love, Jesus and love and all that. Love is a very hard thing to define, but it's forgiveness. It's forgiveness what leads to understanding, in my view. It's forgiveness that leads to understanding, that allows then, helps relax people in a situation where there may be contentious arguments or oppositional arguments. If you can forgive the other person who's arguing with you, and they can forgive you, then you create an understanding that becomes maybe a more cohesive force. And that, to me, then may generate a love. You've got to generate love. You can't, by overcoming what causes animosity. And animosity, if you can't forgive, and obviously what's separating Christianity or anything, any religion, is a lack of forgiveness about different points of view. So that stubbornness, which is in the male ego, is an evolutionary force, and therefore that's entrenched over time as people become They build their own churches, they create their own economy. Some people make a fortune out of being what they are in religion. The TV evangelists and all stuff like that make fortune. The church makes billions out of being a church, etc. So it becomes an egotistical force revolving around economic potentials, just like any other business. And so long as it's that, then it will forever be divided. But if it understands that forgiveness is a clue to a more cohesive view on what Jesus may have taught, rather than just love, because it's not easy to love everything and everyone because of all sorts of reasons. It cannot be reciprocal when people are full of hate. You have to forgive them, but nevertheless you've got to be aware of them, that they're dangerous. Being forgiven and turning on the cheek is one thing, but being aware of the danger of people without any love for humanity in them, who cannot forgive, is something that needs to be understood. Because we can forgive people all we like, but if they don't have no forgiveness or love for humanity in them, they're a present danger to humanity. That's also got to be understood. And only by unifying under the idea of forgiveness can all the Christian faiths, all the different Christian, and all the different faiths come together as a unifying force for good for humanity. It's not just about Christianity, it's about humanity.